what's up, sports fans? It's another edition of the Transitional Champs Retro Reviews. I am the cripple threat of comedy, the third most talented person in America, and former AEW superstar Ryan Niemiller. And with me, as always, is Gavin, the Heartbreak Kid Eddings.
Oh, there we go. My claim to fame is I have met Orange Cassidy twice.
Twice.
He's very nice. I bought a shirt from him.
He seems like a nice boy. Speaking of, you showed me, this is way off topic right away, but Hot Topic was doing like a clearance sale.
Yeah.
On Orange Cassidy shirts. I tried to buy it, and after a month, they just went like, we ain't getting this shipped, man. This isn't coming to the store.
I got mine, so I don't know what happened. I do have to ask you something a little off topic too. You've worked hard to build your comedy brand, many years. How do you feel about Nyla Rose stealing your catchphrase of "my hole"?
You mean Nia Jax?
Nia Jax, yeah.
Nia Jax, yeah. We were talking about Nyla Rose before we started recording.
How do you feel about Nia Jax just straight up ripping off your catchphrase of "my hole"?
You know what? I'm going to allow it. And the reason is, like, well, people don't know this. Nia Jax and I had a bet to see who could be the first one to talk about their asshole on live television. And I'll give it to her. She won. She totally won, man.
You tried every week on AGT, and they're like, no, we cannot.
Every time that I tried to get it approved, I was like, okay, trust me. I'm just going to yell "my hole." Is that cool?
You're
like, we can't do it.
It's a golf joke. It's a golf joke.
It's a golf joke. So kudos to her. I will send her the edible arrangement. That was the bet that we agreed to. That is a good bet.
Speaking of bets and money and banks.
Oh, that was a reach, but I'll allow it. Our event we're talking about at this week's retro review is Money in the Bank 2011. Mm-hmm. This was on July 17th, 2011, from the Allstate Arena in Rosemont, Illinois. Announced attendance was 14,815 with a buy rate of 195,000.
I was one of them. I bought that.
Oh, you were. Oh, you bought it. Okay, I thought you were there. I was like, which one? Which one were you?
I bought it with some friends. We normally only got together for WrestleMania and Rumble, but we're like, no, we got to buy Money in the Bank 2011.
Yeah, and that was actually like the buy rate was really good. It was from what I saw, it was 30,000 more than the year before for Money in the Bank. And those kind of secondary, even like this one was like widely pushed, and we'll talk about the main event and all that and why it was so promoted. But those kind of like mid-tier, like midsummer, like outside the top four, like they were usually doing 150, I would say probably at the time. So doing almost 200,000 was a big jump for what is kind of a niche event on the WWE calendar.
Yeah, and the month before they had Capital Punishment, which was like R-Truth and John Cena going at it. So this was a huge upgrade.
I didn't dislike that program.
No, great program.
I thought R-Truth, but like it was a weird thing because they was kind of like out of nowhere. They were like, oh yeah, by the way, now R-Truth is main eventing
because he smoked on TV.
Yeah, that was basically what it was. It was weird. But we're not talking about Capital Punishment. We are talking about Money in the Bank. So let's make this magic happen, and let's just get right to it.
Let's do it.
The first match of the evening was the SmackDown Money in the Bank ladder match. This was for a World Heavyweight Championship contract.
Yep. The brand split was still kind of going on, but not really. Like they were kind of crossing back and forth a lot, but still each show had their own title, and the winner of this match would go on to fight for the the World Heavyweight Championship.
That's a different topic as well. I hate the brand split.
Really?
It's so weird to me. It's like, there's two champions that are the best. Like it just seems to work better if there's just one title. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just too old school on that, and I'm in the minority on it. I don't know. It's fine. It is what it is. It just doesn't, like, part of, like, before, it was always cool. Like, there was one world champion. So if someone wins the world title, it was this huge deal. But now it's just like, there's two of them. Don't worry about it. We can give Jinder Mahal a title because we can have Roman Reigns on the other show. And it's fine.
And even around this time, the WWE would, like, switch up which emphasis they wanted to put on each title. Like for a while when Raw had the World Heavyweight Championship, it was like the belt. And then the WWE title was kind of secondary. And they kind of did that when the Universal title debuted as well, before it went back to Raw, and Drew McIntyre now has it. So they pick and choose which belt is the belt.
Yeah, and I mean, this was like, it's not as much anymore because SmackDown's on Fox, so they definitely get a little bit more clout than SmackDown used to. But this is definitely in the midst of Raw is the A show, SmackDown is the B show.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So this match involved, it was a weird cast because I didn't look up anything about this show. I didn't go back and look to see what the card was. I just started watching it.
Same here. I didn't want to be spoiled. I wanted to, because I remember while I'm watching it live and thinking that was pretty good, but I didn't want to like try to remember before I watched it.
Exactly. Yeah. So the only thing I obviously knew ahead of time was the main event, which we'll get to. So this involved the Money in the Bank. It was Wade Barrett, Sheamus, Sin Cara, Kane, Justin Gabriel, Heath Slater, Cody Rhodes, and Daniel Bryan. What did you think of this match, my friend?
I thought it was good, but that's a lot of jobbers in one match, and a lot of future jobbers. Like all the core they were pushing at this point, the core had like kind of split up. I can't remember, because this was the tail end of, because Punk led the Nexus for a while. This was really towards the tail end of like the core and the Nexus, and they're kind of splitting up. So seeing Justin Gabriel and Heath Slater and all them, they were trying to push them all as like single stars, but it just was not happening.
Yeah, this was a weird time, and I think this card a little bit suffers for that for me. Is like I'm trying to remember it in the context of that time. This was near the end of like Heath Slater and Justin Gabriel actually being pushed as serious.
Yeah,
because there was a while like they were like the dominant tag team champions. The 450 splash from Gabriel was one of the most over moves in WWE. Like it was, he just broke John Cena's ribs with it. It was like that kind of clout.
People loved it.
Yeah, and this was kind of like near the end of where it's like, okay, now they're just going to be dudes again.
Yeah. I'd also like to point out that this was the bad Sin Cara. The bad Sin Cara.
Yes, this was lazy Sin Cara. This was, I'm a huge star in Mexico, so I shouldn't have to work hard here. Sin Cara, yes.
Yeah.
For me personally, I liked this match. There wasn't a ton of story to it, and I feel this was with both ladder matches. But the first one, like I think the Raw one was a little better, but this just seemed like it was just spots and then setting up more spots. And
there was a lot of spots, and there were some cool spots. Like I forgot that Kane and Sheamus did a Doomsday device, which was so cool to see. And it was not a bad looking Doomsday device. Like that was a cool move. Yeah, that was cool. The one thing I forgot it was this event, but I do remember Sin Cara dying when Sheamus powerbombed him through the ladder. I remember that as well. And then he gets stretchered off because he did his one move. I wrote in my note, Sin Cara only exists to die by a ladder's hand. Yeah, that's essentially what it was. And I don't know, like I didn't have time to do like the research to go back and look to see if that was a legit injury. I don't think it was. No, I think that was just his way of just being out of the match. It was their way to keep him looking strong without him having to do things, because doing things was not Mystico Sin Cara's strong suit. Yeah. So I'm trying to remember at the time, because ultimately we'll go ahead and say Daniel Bryan wins. Yes. And if I remember correctly, it was kind of a surprise. If I'm recalling this correctly, I believe the favorite going in, everyone thought it was going to be Wade Barrett. Mm-hmm. They thought he was going to be the one, because like Sheamus was already he was being de-pushed a little bit. He had come in hot. He'd already been like a 2-time WWE champion, I think, at this point. Kane had just won the last year. Kane's just a solid hand at this point. He's just a guy you can plug in and do. And then everyone else, it was, I like Cody Rhodes now for the most part, but he wasn't winning this at the time. I did like his fan. I liked his Fan of the Opera stuff, but yeah, he wasn't going to be the guy. I was surprised when Daniel Bryan won, and actually I had forgotten that he had won watching this. And I was like, is this the one that he won? Because I knew he would win eventually, but I was like, is this the one? And it was. But yeah, it was a surprise, because this was really, at the time, kind of an even-ish field where it could have been Wade Barrett. It could have been Daniel Bryan. They could have done something with Heath Slater. Who knows? They could have done Kane again. But yeah, Daniel Bryan was a very pleasant surprise. Yeah, and this was still like, man, this was like the start of him being pushed
Seriously, because like even during the commentary, and this was still Michael Cole as a heel play-by-play guy, which doesn't make any sense.
The goddamn worst. It is just awful. Hearing him call Daniel Bryan this nerd. Well, you would know Booker T because you're a nerd too.
Yeah,
like shut up. We're all watching wrestling together. Like what?
We're all freaking nerds.
Like, he's a nerd. He's a vegan. He's a nerd. Yeah, this era of Michael Cole is the absolute worst.
Yeah, and it's not his fault. Like I don't even blame Michael Cole. He was just given a position that like you shouldn't be given in that. But that's besides the point. But like I didn't realize like this was so like for me why it was a surprise is that Daniel Bryan still just has Flight of the Valkyries as his theme music. It's not like the remix that's current that he uses now, which actually has it's WWE eyes. It's literally just classical music that he comes out to. So like it is weird. It's just like saying that, and he's like, and he looks a little smaller. Like he's got like the buzz cut. It's still. I looked at him and I was like, oh, this is Ring of Honor Daniel Bryan still.
It's
like this
weird.
kind of looks like him.
And the crowd was behind him, but this was pre him doing the yes stuff because he wouldn't do the yes stuff until he wins the championship later on that year and starts doing it ironically. And then the crowd gets behind it at that next WrestleMania. And then the whole yes chant becomes a legitimate thing.
Right. Yeah. So I thought it was good. I gave it 3 3/4. I thought it was fun. The spots were cool. There was a lot going there, but that's the problem I sometimes have with a lot of these ladder matches. It's hard to build a story when you have 8 dudes in there.
Yeah, you've got like 6 to 8 dudes in there. You've got Sin Cara dying, and that being all his thing. Like he exists to die, and then you have like some cool spots, and then you have people just laying around the ring waiting for their turn. So yeah, it's hard to tell a story like that.
Exactly. Yeah. We'll get to the second one later.
Yes.
Which I think did a better job at that. But
next
we got to get to here's what I was excited about.
Oh, next match of the night, which by far match of the night.
Yeah.
Kelly and Brie Bella taking on each other for the Divas Claire's Championship.
Yes.
Where when you win the belt, you also get your ears pierced by a dirty gun.
Exactly. and you get those MLM stick-on nails that they put on that says champ across the hand.
Holy shit. Like, we're all used to the women's revolution now, and like, damn, Bayley and Charlotte going head-to-head, Bayley, Sasha Banks. 2011 was a dark time.
And it's so frustrating. Like, and I don't want to be the guy who's just like, well, it's women's wrestling, so I don't want to come off like that because again, I think it's a situation. It wasn't their fault. This is just what they were. This was the environment they were in.
This was the 2 best hands they had at this point.
Yeah, because like legitimately, I think as time went on, the Bellas became pretty decent. They're not, they're not Bayley and Sasha Banks and Charlotte Flair, and but I thought they got decent. And I will say I was slightly impressed. I don't remember Kelly ever like feeling like there was effort put into it, but like she worked hard. She was trying. Like
it was competent. It was a perfectly fine sort of match. But this was every WWE women's match from I think about probably 2007 until 2015-16. This was what you got. You got battle royales with themes and gimmicks and these little short like 7 to 10 minute matches for the butterfly belt.
Yeah, according to Wikipedia, it wasn't even 5 minutes. It ended at 4:54. Yeah, it felt longer.
It did feel. Yeah, it felt like an Okada match at times.
Yeah, but there was a couple of like decent highlights. Like I thought Kelly took a pretty cool bump to the floor. She basically took like this big face plant. I think she was doing like a handstand or something,
and then died. Yeah,
and then got died. Yeah, I thought I was like, oh, I didn't expect because she just looks frail. And I'm not saying that to be. In wrestling context, she looks frail. In real life, she's perfectly a normal human being. But in the sake of like pro wrestling, it's like she just looks small, like just thinner. And it was also weird too because they were playing up like the announcers were kind of playing up like, oh, are they going to do twin magic? And then they didn't even tease it really. There was just like no. She like Brie Bella gets pinned clean. which I did not see coming. I thought it'd be like, maybe this didn't work out. The interference backfired. Just clean pin.
It was and out of nowhere. Like it was just like a very nonchalant famouser type move. And then the 1, 2, 3. I was like, oh, is that it? I do like the way that the Bellas were bullying Kelly for being too thin and being like, she doesn't even eat. How's she gonna beat you? She doesn't even eat. As if the Bellas are somehow 240, just jacked women. And then they go on to, and then they're in the Be a Star commercial later that night.
Yeah, that was the thing I was going to notice. Like you're seeing like Nikki and Brie being so, be a star, don't be a bully. You need to eat, Kelly.
Get a sandwich. We're worried about you. So
you just can't. Apparently, be a star means you can't bully fat people. You can bully skinny people. That's fine. That's a different thing.
But if they get too fat, then you can't bully them anymore. It's just a weird. It's a weird requirement.
Yeah, and it's a weird thing. And like I know they got like WWE did get a little like guff for like the bullying thing at the time, like to be a star. But like I think you can do storylines where someone's bullied as long as the bully gets theirs in the end. like you could do a story where someone's awful. Like that's why I was always so frustrated. Like I thought like the Piggy James storyline was awful only because it didn't end with Mickie James coming out on top.
Yeah.
You know, like if she gets bullied like that, but then she kicks Michelle McCool and Layla's ass, then it's like, okay, that'll teach them to be.
She got her comeuppance. Yeah.
Exactly. But then it just didn't happen. And I feel there was just too much of that at this time. It's people being like, yeah, you're ugly and stupid. Okay, I won. You're just like, all right.
We call that the Triple H Booker T booking.
Yes, we do. So I gave this probably 1.5 stars. Like that
That's
just feels
pretty generous.
They were competent. It wasn't, but the division wasn't taken seriously, and they got no time to. They weren't treated seriously. Yeah. So what are you gonna do?
Yeah. Next up, we got meaty men slapping meat. We got the Big Show, and we got Mark Henry, who is starting his Hall of Pain gimmick, which is amazing. This is post him. Is this him trying to retire and killing John Cena, or has the Salmon Jacket speech happened yet?
No, this is before that.
Okay.
So Salmon Jacket, I think, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, I thought that was closer to like 2014.
Okay.
2015. I think that's much later. Like, yeah, so this is sort of like, this isn't Hall of Pain officially, but it's that sort of like change in attitude to being that guy.
I love the video package before this because it has one of my all-time favorite moments of Mark Henry yeeting the sound guy clearly onto crash pads, but it's such a thing like, what's this do? And then he just like launches a man into the next year. It's one of the greatest moments.
Oh, I love that. Like this is the best Mark Henry, I think. Like the whole Hall of Pain stuff. Because like we know anyone who's like a wrestling fan knows like he's a softie. Like the other joke too, like if he was ever like interviewed for something even remotely serious, he was gonna cry. He seems like a really good dude, but like he looks scary as shit. That's a guy who could rip you in half.
That's
if you pissed him off.
That's a thick tree trunk of a man.
Yeah, he's a tough dude. And then when this was the first time they really were seriously pushing that. Because for years he was like sexual chocolate. And then he was just kind of around, you know, and he had a lot of injury issues. Like he just never could get any momentum. And it was interesting because like in hindsight, you kind of look back and you're like, oh yeah, Mark Henry was a badass. Like he's the coolest. But like at the time, I think it still felt a little weird. I remember reading a couple of reviews of this as I was kind of going through things about people basically saying like, yeah, it's just interesting that they're now getting behind Mark Henry. Because like he hadn't been treated seriously much before this point.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought the match was fine. I thought it was two big hosses hitting each other. There was a weird spot early on where Mark Henry drop kicks the stairs into Big Show, and I was like, that did nothing. The stairs didn't move, and then you've got Big Show, who's never been a great seller, trying to sell a leg injury the entire match. So this is what it is. It's a hoss fight. And it was impressive, and Mark Henry wins because Mark Henry should win. But overall, pretty standard big guy match.
Yeah, I gave it 2.5. Like I thought it was fine. It was more kind of setting up this gimmick for Mark Henry more than anything because it's impressive. Like it's always impressive, even now, seeing somebody lift Big Show easily.
Yeah.
So he hit him with like what, 2 World's Strongest Slams, and like just watching him like dominate like a guy that big is impressive to see, regardless.
Yeah, and when he says he's the world's strongest man, like he has so many records. They did a great documentary on him on the WWE network where he wanted to compete in strongman again, and he had to win because Vince McMahon said we don't have place on our roster for the world's second strongest man. So he had to go out and really do that and like pull trucks and stuff. So he's a legit strong dude, and it was good to see him being treated like a beast instead of a joke.
Exactly. Yeah. So Mark Henry wins. They do an angle afterwards. I like the angle. I felt it was a little over the top, and they did too many injury angles on the show.
Yeah, way too many.
But so Mark Henry wins, and then he Pillmanizes Big Show's ankle, puts a chair on it, and then does a Vader splash to kind of like break his ankle. Or knowing WWE at this time, Big Show was back in 6 days and was ready to fight.
It was also a heel again.
For whatever reason. Yeah. He breaks his heel, he becomes a heel. That's the rule. But yeah, like it felt a little over the top, and they brought out the big cart because Big Show's too big to stretcher. But yeah, it was a good showcase for Mark Henry. It wasn't the best match in the world, but it was, hey, Mark Henry is legit.
I would like to see an escalation where each time Big Show gets hurt, they have to get like a bigger vehicle to carry him off until eventually they're just backing up a dump truck. That's what I need. That's what I need for my Big Show storylines.
Well, when we start doing our pro wrestling fan fiction together, that is what we will write out.
Okay, next up we have the Raw Money in the Bank ladder match, which I don't have a list of all the participants in front of me, but I will say LOL Alex Riley.
Yes. So I have the list here. So it's Alex Riley, Evan Bourne, Alberto Del Rio, Jack Swagger, Kofi Kingston, The Miz, R-Truth, and Raymond Mysterio Jr.
Raymond Mysterio.
Raymond Mysterio II.
Everybody loves Rey Mysterio.
I love Rey. This Chicago crowd did not love Rey Mysterio. He got booed a lot during this. It was weird. Well, Chicago's kind of a heel crowd anyway. Yeah. And this was around the time, like everyone loves Mysterio now. He has enough clout where I think he's just going to always be cheered at this point. But this was very much we're tired of Rey Mysterio period.
This was one of those crowds that was like, Michael, they're so crazy. They boo who they're supposed to cheer, and they cheer who they're supposed to boo. It's crazy. Raw to WrestleMania, Michael.
Michael.
So yeah, this was, I forgot who was in this match until I saw. I was like, Alex Riley and Miz were feuding at this point, and then you have Jack Swagger, who I forgot was a roster member at that ever. I was like, he's just Jake Hager. So yeah, there were some interesting people. Evan Bourne is made for this match. He was great.
He was great here. Yeah, his airborne, the shooting star press off the ladder early was awesome. That was very cool.
That's one of the best ladder spots I've ever seen. Like it holds up. It's a great spot. He has one of the most beautiful SSPs, besides the one he was supposed to do at AEW Double or Nothing when he almost killed himself.
Yes. Yeah, like overall, I like this match much more than the SmackDown one. These matches are always going to have a little sense of like, oh, guys are lying around so that these guys can do their thing.
Yeah.
But it seemed to make more sense here. Like, I don't know if that makes sense. Like the bumps that would take people out was stuff that like I could buy. Like, oh yeah, that's why Jack Swagger's on the ground for a while, because that's what happened.
He's been murdered by R-Truth.
Exactly. Like it just felt like everything flowed a little better on this. The story was better. It was shorter, which is maybe that's also part of it. Like they just were moving things along faster.
Mm-hmm.
I thought everything looked good for the most part. The only real screw up that I saw was R-Truth was trying to like climb up the ladder to then like jump on it and knock it into I think Swagger's face, and he had to kind of redo it because he slipped. It didn't quite work.
I was like, Swagger, why are you holding that ladder still? Like he missed his spot. Go do something else. But it was a cool spot once he did it correctly. But I think it's so weird to look back at this time because I never liked Alberto Del Rio. I never saw the appeal. I never really got his character. It was just like a Latino $1 million man. And especially when they started doing this stuff like, oh, he rents those cars. Those aren't his real cars. And I was never a huge fan of him. The Chicago crowd really liked him. I couldn't remember if this was before or after his face turn, or I think he was still probably a heel, but
he was still a heel at this point. Yeah, I don't think he had a bad face turn yet. But again, this is a really cloudy time where I think guys turn for no reason, and then
and then the Chicago crowd also was playing more to the heel. Alberto Del Rio, they really pushed him real hard. They let him win the Royal Rumble that year. They have him win this Money in the Bank. He'd be world champion again in about a month. So,
this whole thing was strange too. It's just weird storytelling. The match itself, I thought, like I said, was really good. Alberto Del Rio won. I thought that, given the time frame, I thought that was fine. Like, we all know what he turns into later, but that you can't judge it necessarily based on that at the time.
What did he do? I haven't read the news in 10 years.
He quit wrestling so that he could rescue puppies.
Oh, what a great man.
What a wonderful human being.
Please, I really hope you isolate that clip and be like, Alberto Del Rio, what a great guy.
What a great guy. But like, storyline, it was weird because I guess, I can't remember who he fought, but like Alberto Del Rio had won a triple threat match to become #1 contender, but then Punk came back, was like not suspended anymore, so then he wasn't #1 contender, or wasn't getting the match with Cena at Money in the Bank, but now he had to re-earn being like I get like the match being, they could have easily done it just the same with him, like, oh, the match is postponed and now Del Rio's pissed because he should be getting the titles. You could have easily done a story there and given someone else the chance to win the briefcase, but now he just like, oh, because Cena wanted Punk back, now you're not the contender. Like that somehow avoids that.
Take backsies.
There's some like, the Summer of Punk is great. Like, I think a lot of it is really good, but there's just some weird nonsensical stuff like that gets mixed in where you're like, why did that happen? I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. And we'll get to it at like SummerSlam. You have Kevin Nash coming out and just, it gets real convoluted. Like, people look back at the Summer of Punk. It lasts from that promo in June to Money in the Bank 2011. And that's the Summer of Punk. Like, that's basically it. It's that 4-week window. Anything other than that, they tried really hard to make it garbage water, and then only by Survivor Series did they kind of right the ship and give him a full title run. But they tried to stop and kill it so many times, and then you get Del Rio involved. So yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff, and in the main event we'll definitely talk about that.
Sure.
But overall, not a bad ladder match. Both ladder matches were perfectly good, and the Money in the Bank concept hadn't been completely tired out yet, and the ladder matches we hadn't seen every spot yet.
Exactly. I gave this one a 4 1/4. I thought it was really fun. I thought it was a good time. Even with, not being super excited about who won, I thought everything was cool.
Yeah. Next up, we have for the World Heavyweight Championship, we have Randy Orton versus Christian. And I remember them having a lot of matches around this time, so I was very tired of it at the time. This match in a vacuum, really, really good.
Yeah, I loved this match. I was surprised with how much I enjoyed this because I like Randy Orton and Christian both.
Yes.
And I didn't realize it was already this soon that Christian had kind of turned heel for the most part.
Yeah, he kept asking for the one more match and being more obnoxious about it. And Orton was kind of turning a little bit face because he was just kind of over having to fight Christian. The fans were kind of over it too.
Yeah, it was because this was the summer after Edge had to retire. So like Christian was kind of de facto Edge and had all this good energy behind him of like, oh, Christian got his chance and he won it for his best friend who had to retire and all that. And then like very quickly he just became and he's great at the role. Like I'm kind of glad he did it. But it was just weird. I didn't remember how fast that actually happened.
Yeah, because Christian won the belt at Extreme Rules that May, and then 6 days later on SmackDown, he loses to Randy Orton. Everybody was all the wrestling fans like, they're burying Christian. What are they doing? And it led to one of the more memorable feuds of that summer of Randy Orton and Christian, and the catchphrase of one more match
that he still uses now.
Yes.
that is like still over now.
Yeah.
So kind of the story of this match. In this match, if Randy Orton got disqualified or if there was determined to be poor officiating, Christian would win. So a capital punishment, apparently. So Christian lost by pinfall to Randy Orton, but he had his leg under the ropes, and the ref missed it. So it kind of became this like, oh, he deserves one more match because he was screwed, and yada yada yada. And then he got it built into the contract when they re-signed for this rematch that, hey, if Orton got himself disqualified or the ref screwed him again, then the title would go to Christian. Playing off the fact this was very much in the middle of like loose cannon kind of Randy Orton, where he would just like, oh, he's kind of a fun kind of guy and he has fun, but if you piss him off, he'll
punch you. Like he was still punching people in the head before they thought it was too dangerous to punch people in the head, before eventually bringing it back and like, I'm gonna do it again. But so yeah, this Randy Orton was a little bit ridiculous. This Randy Orton seemed to be trying a little bit more. Like he does this really cool delayed neck breaker that he should use more often. It looks like he was going for almost a Will Ospreay Stormbreaker type move, and I'd never seen Randy Orton bust that out before.
Yeah. I was impressed with this. I really liked the match, and the story was fantastic.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, the first thing that happened, like the bell rings and Christian goes outside the ring and just grabs a chair and basically hands it to Randy Orton. And he's like, do it. You want to hit me. You hate me. And that was kind of like the story of the match was like, it was Christian. He'd wrestle, tried to pin him, but then kind of when he realized, okay, that wasn't working, he was trying to figure out ways to just piss Randy Orton off to get him disqualified.
Until he eventually spits in his face. And then
oh God, like, well, hold on. We got to talk about the spit first of all. So Christian spits in Orton's face, and that's what essentially pisses Orton off to the point of just snapping. But like, did they really have to replay it in slow motion like 8 times? Like, it goes into Orton's mouth. Like,
and in these COVID times, it makes me miss when you can spit in another man's mouth freely and twice on Tuesdays. I miss it.
It was so visceral too. It was just so
visceral. Good word.
Oh God.
It's like whenever the headbangers are like spit in the air and catch in their mouth. Like
there's something about it that just makes you go.
But the best part about the spit is it led to the best title change of all time. Title change via dick kick. I love immediately getting kicked in the dick and then winning the championship. It's the best.
And I specifically love this one too. Like on paper, a title changing by DQ sounds kind of lame. Story-wise, I thought this worked out brilliant. I thought it was amazing. Everyone played their part right, but it wasn't just that he dick kicked him. It was like such a targeted, because he wasn't like he got worked up and then like, he was like fighting and then low blowed him and like, oh no, it was Christian's getting up and Orton just goes, fuck it, and just wham! just
gets the twig and the berries, and it goes from 55 yards.
Yeah, and the ref was like, dude, I have to disqualify you, man. Like that was essentially the reaction. It was like, come on.
Somewhere in Chicago, Christian's balls have yet to come down.
They're still it was like one of those carnival games where you like use the hammer and it like hits the bell. His testicles hit the bell
and kept going.
So Christian wins by DQ and is now the new world heavyweight champion. And then Orton and it was great too, just beats the hell out of Christian. Yeah, he snaps and just beats the hell out of him.
That Spanish announce table though was not selling for anybody.
That table laughed at them.
Christian takes 2 big RKOs. I thought he was going to go back for a third one because he kind of lingers on the table. Like, is he going to go all the way back for a third one?
Yeah, we got to break this table. We can't just let this table not be broken.
We can't let this table get away with this.
Oh yeah, I loved everything about this. I gave it 4 1/4 as well. It just needs the only reason it wasn't higher is because I know there's more to this feud. I believe they have a great match at SummerSlam, if I'm not mistaken. So that's kind of the only reason. It's not the culmination of everything, and it could have been a little longer. I think it was only about 12, 13 minutes, something like that. But story-wise, it was great, and I loved it.
Still a fun match. And on any other night, it'd probably be match of the night. But not on this night. This night, the big main event, this was a WrestleMania caliber build to a main event. You've got CM Punk coming into his hometown of Chicago, taking on John Cena, who at this point was pretty much not a heel, but fans were booing him more and more.
This was very much in the middle of the let's go Cena sucks era of John Cena.
Yes, but this era, going into Chicago, CM Punk's hometown, this was really just below one night stand 06 for a hostile crowd that wanted to see John Cena absolutely lose.
Yes.
And CM Punk coming out to one of the biggest ovations I've ever heard in my entire life. And it made me miss his original theme music of Killswitch Engage. I know Cult of Personality is such a huge part of like his things. I don't really like the song that much.
I don't love it either. I thought the same thing because I think when he starts using Cult of Personality, when he comes back,
yes,
after he's re-signed, I think that's when it starts. So this is maybe the last time.
It's the last time I used Killswitch Engage. I missed that theme. I think it's better than Cult of Personality, but him coming out and getting the crowd like all riled up, it was cool to see. And then Cena comes out, they boo him, and this match, man, it holds up. I was worried it wouldn't hold up. And in retrospect, I thought there was more shenanigans involved in it. There really wasn't. And this was just a good 30-plus minute wrestling match that told a great story. It had high stakes. And Meltzer gave it 5 stars. And it was like the only 5-star match the WWE had since like Hell in a Cell back in 98.
It was the first one since the last show we reviewed, which was the Hell in a Cell 97. Which that's a different conversation as well. I think Meltzer is a little rough on WWE as far as like match rating sometimes. Like if some of those Wrestle Kingdom matches for this year were over 5, there's definitely been more 5-star matches.
I agree. And I think he's kind of loosened up over the years. But again, we don't want to digress too much into Daddy Meltzer star ratings.
Exactly. Yeah, but we don't want to make the internet mad at us.
This match was so good, and it felt like a New Japan style match where it's a really slow build and the moves get heavier and harder, and it tells a great story. What were some of the highlights for you?
The Cena, I believe, is so underrated as an actual worker. Mm-hmm. He gets this bad reputation from some of like the more hardcore internet type fans of like not being able to wrestle.
He has 5 moves.
No, the dude can work. Like I think Cena is legitimately a great worker because like you have to build drama. He's so good at that. It's not just about being able to do flips and counters and like all these kind of technicals. Like there's more to it than that. It's doing stuff at the right time. That's why I always felt he's better than him, but I always thought Hogan was a little underrated because Hogan didn't have to do a billion different moves because he knew when to. That comeback worked for years because it's effective storytelling, like the hulking up. Why would you kill yourself? And that's even like part of like the thing. Now it's impressive to go look back and do this because like some of the stuff Cena does, like that top rope leg drop.
Oh, it's great.
And all that. And you're just like, Cena, you don't have to do this. Like because he was over doing 5 moves of doom. Mm-hmm. He didn't have to do any of this, but he worked hard and he wanted matches to be good. Like he clearly cares. And I feel he gets a bad rap. I was impressed with just like the chain wrestling early, and Cena held his own. It wasn't just Punk clearly carrying Cena.
Yeah, having the STF go into the Anaconda Vice and those kind of things. And I'm far enough removed now because I hated John Cena during this time. I think a lot of people did because he was just constantly it's because there were no consequences for his character. But now in a vacuum and being so far removed from like Cena Reigns of Terror and whatnot, he's a good worker. He had some great matches, and he would go on to have matches with like Kevin Owens that were really great, and like AJ Styles matches were amazing.
He got a good match out of Great Khali. You got to give him at least a little credit.
Or did Great Khali get a great match out of John Cena?
It's possible. I never thought of it that way. That'll be our next topic. We'll debate. But we digressed yet again. There was a couple things about this match that were just like interesting. I forgot that Colt Cabana, and I believe that was Ace Steel, if I'm not mistaken, are in the front row. And it's even weird too, because like at one point, like after a dive or after something outside, CM Punk kind of slaps hands with Colt Cabana.
Yeah,
and they're like, "Oh, he's slapping 5 with the fans. And it's like clearly Colt Cabana.
One of my notes is sad seeing Colt and Punk being friends.
Yeah. Okay, we know how that kind of turns out later, but it was interesting. I forgot they were there. Like his mom and I think his sister are in the front row there as well. Mm-hmm. And I thought the crowd was great. Like this was a weird time before. Like I usually don't like when the crowd tries to make themselves the star. Mm-hmm. I don't feel that was like they were kind of doing it, but it made sense.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, like it worked with the story. It worked with, them, because I hate those post-WrestleMania crowds. A lot of them, I think, just go too far to be like, hey, look how clever we are with these chants.
Yeah, it's always, and that's been the one thing that's been kind of nice about the pandemic is I haven't heard a what chant in almost 12 months, and it's been glorious.
Hopefully the what chant caught COVID and will not come back.
It's on a ventilator currently.
Yeah, hopefully. Jeez.
But the one thing that kind of I didn't like about the match was having John Laurinaitis kind of intervene and kind of distract Cena. I think you got to keep Cena strong. I just hate that even 14 years removed from the screw job, they're still having Vince come out like, ring the damn bell. Ring the bell, damn it. I get tired of saying that.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Like, normally I agree with you. And like, this was at the time where I was just so over. I to this day, I'm so over. If we never see like a heel general manager or if we never see that again, it'll be too soon. Like I'm so over that. This was one of the times where I felt story-wise, it all made perfect sense. Yeah. Because, the story is, if Punk wins,
he's going to take the belt to New Japan.
He's taking the title. And from what I understand, like legitimately, his contract was up and he didn't resign. Like they ended up re-signing him like in the next coming weeks. It was pretty fast, but like from what I understand, he was gone. So I think there was in the pit of everyone's stomach, and WWE also has a nice history of, for whatever reason, humiliating people in their hometown. Mm-hmm. Like they do stories where it's like, oh, you're in your hometown? Well, you're going to get farted on by Rikishi or like whatever. They're going to do something stupid to you. So I think that's why I felt this time it really worked. Because I think that everyone was just like so ready to be like, oh God, here's the lame screw job. And then I even thought it played well with Cena's character. Like, sure, it made him kind of release a submission hold that he may have won by. Mm-hmm. But like, I thought it worked for that because like the whole match happened because Cena demanded that CM Punk be unsuspended because he was like, no, let's not suspend. I'm going to shut him up by kicking his ass. Like, that's how we shut him up. And I don't need you to help me win this match. I'm going to go do it. And watching John Laurinaitis get punched is always fun.
It's always fun. People power.
Yeah.
I love this match. CM Punk is one of my favorites, obviously. I know that he's probably a terrible human being. But as a wrestler at this time, he made wrestling cool again. He made people think, oh, did he really shoot? He had Jim Rome on that toolbox on ESPN, like wrestling's real again. Like, shut up, Jim Rome. Yeah. But it made me a fan again. It made me interested because the summers of 2010 and 2011 did a lot for wrestling because you had the Nexus in 2010, then you had the Summer of Punk of 2011, and then you had nothing for ever.
A while.
Yeah. And it really got people talking about wrestling again. And the storyline of I wanted to see him show up in Ring of Honor. I wanted to see him show up all over the place with the belt. I thought that would be really cool. It was cool seeing him at like a Cubs game with it. I thought that was neat.
Yeah, in hindsight, I wish they would have done that because I feel they rushed him coming back because he was already back by SummerSlam.
He was back. He was back 2 weeks later.
Yeah, the next if they would have, even if they signed him, had they just let him do. Now he has the title in Ring of Honor, like you said. Oh, he's in New Japan wrestling this. They could have done so much if they weren't just so in their own heads about it.
If they weren't so afraid of seeing it somewhere else. Yeah. And because the next night on Raw, they had a tournament for the championship where I think Rey Mysterio won, and then that John Cena won the title back, and then Cult of Personality played, and Punk walks out, and it's like a week and a half later.
Yeah,
and there wasn't enough time for it to build to anything.
Yeah, but the dismount from this was not nearly as good as the build and the actual match.
No.
'Cause I even like the post-match stuff. Like I was even surprised with that because like I loved how it's like the story they told of like Vince McMahon comes out, oh, he's gonna screw Punk. Cena screws that up for him. Cena loses, and now you were like, oh, yeah, Punk won, and then McMahon comes down and gets on the headset. And he's like, bring out Del Rio down now. Get Albert down here now. So Alberto Del Rio runs down with the briefcase to cash in, and then Punk just knocks him out with a kick right away.
Yeah, and I think that scene of CM Punk on the railing, kissing goodbye, and then running out the back door to the crowd is such a great image. I put that up there with any Attitude Era shit they constantly are playing over and over again. That's a lasting image that people remember. And we're coming up on the 10th anniversary of this show this year, and the fact that it's still looked back on that main event is looked back on so fondly. It says how much that this match really holds to the test of time, and I'm really glad we watched this pay-per-view as a whole, because overall it's a great pay-per-view.
Yeah, I like even the low lights are pretty decent in this one.
Yeah.
You know, like Kelly and Brie Bella worked hard. They did the best with what they had.
Put on a 5-star.
Mark Henry
was great.
Yeah. Mark Henry and Big Show was a good Hoss fight. It was what it was. You know, it's not gonna. You know, it would have been 6 stars in the Tokyo Dome.
Absolutely.
But, you know, I thought overall this was just a really good show, and I gave the main event 5 stars. I don't know if I love it quite as much as a lot of people do, but it's just a lot of that is hindsight and kind of what I feel about Punk now.
Yeah.
Clouding it, but like in that moment and just like that crowd and how that story played off, it's hard to find too much to be upset about in that moment.
All right, so overall, Money in the Bank 2011, great time. You picked it. So far I'm 0 for 1 for shows that are actually good.
Yeah, but there was a highlight in that. It was fun to watch that Hell in the Cell again.
It was fun to watch that.
Yeah, you didn't pick December to Dismember or anything like that. So
well, funny you should mention ECW.
Oh god.
No, we're not going to watch December to Dismember. But I would like to rewatch my favorite pay-per-view, probably of all time. ECW One Night Stand 2005.
2005.
Yes, the first one they did in 2005. This was a year before the Cena RVD match. I want to watch it again. I like watching it every once in a while just to see if it still holds up and to kind of enjoy it. So I think it's not WWE, but it is WWE-esque. It's the ECW. It's their reunion show.
Well, we're not a WWE show. We're a wrestling show. We just have easy access to what's on WWE Network right now.
Okay,
so.
well, you know what? We're gonna watch Stardom. Let's watch.
Okay.
All right.
Post a torrent for me so I can find that. Would appreciate it.
I've done the commentary myself. I've dubbed the commentary.
Nice. I appreciate that.
But yeah, so let's watch ECW One Night Stand 2005.
I'm excited. Let's do it.
Okay. So
right now.
3
more hours. Load it up. We're going to record the next 3 hours.
I've already worked today. All right. Well, Ryan, what are you doing? Where are you going to be? And where can we see you?
Where can you see me? Cripplethreat.com. You can see my calendar for when I'm starting to get to do shows here and there. And then at CrippleThreat 8 on all the things.
All right, and you can follow me at Gavin Eddings. You can also follow my horror YouTube channel, Gavin Loves Horror. And you can, eventually I'll do commentary for New Focus Wrestling here in Evansville, Indiana again. But they changed it now. It's now Refocused Wrestling.
Oh.
So they're going to bring in some newer stars. So it should be a good time whenever we can actually, do stuff, because Indiana doesn't believe in masks or that COVID's a real thing.
Yeah, so what are you going to do? And also, as always, please give us a like, a comment, ring that bell, smash that bell, and subscribe, because we're enjoying doing this. We're still a budding channel, so tell your friends, and then tell those friends tell their friends, and then soon we'll have 16 million subscribers.
I would love that, because I would like money. Be like, hey, that guy that was on AGT, he talks wrestling with a nobody.
Yeah, look at these nerds. He's a nerd.
He's a nerd. Well, you're going to win Money in the Bank, you nerd. Get up there. Climb that ladder.
Awesome. Well, this was fun, Gavin.
Yeah. All right. Until next time.
We are the Transitional Champs. Take it easy, everyone.